Hello everyone, welcome to the video, and let's extend the discussion. If you recall, last time we found out some of the base pairs of the bacteriophages. We tried to understand how many genes are there. We took the example of different types of bacteriophages, and then we moved on to the prokaryotic cell. Today we will take the example of eukaryotic system, and I'll give you some numbers, and I hope that those numbers will make sense to you. We'll try to relate the numbers with the known distances, for example, distance from Earth and Sun, and we'll compare it with the DNA molecule. So it's going to be a very interesting comparison, and that will come at the end of this video. But initially we'll have some boring numbers. Boring, why I'm saying, because they are huge numbers. They are not going to make any sense, but the thing is, you need to remember those numbers if you are basically a student of biochemistry, right? So what are those numbers and why they are important? We'll also discuss that. As you can see, I've already written a few of the things that will help you to understand different aspects of these quantification of the DNA when it comes to the eukaryotic cell. So when we talk about eukaryotic organisms, we have yeast cells, that is one of the basic eukaryotic system, and then C. elegans, which is the nematode. If you're not aware of that, it's a worm basically, and one of the model organism to study genetics. Next is rice is there, and then Homo sapiens, humans, us, right? So we'll see what are those numbers as far as the base pair is concerned, how many genes are there. So I think these numbers are important, and you can also make your own notes the way you want to make. You can write it down somewhere, and then when you want to revise, you can just go through the specific information. So I'm taking the information from different sources, I'm putting them together in a video format, so you should be able to understand that. Okay, so we'll start with the yeast cell. So we have this yeast cell. I'm written times of the E. coli DNA. So basically I'm comparing what is the size of the yeast genome when it is compared with the E. coli DNA, right? So I don't remember. So I have everything written already here. So I'll just fill out these numbers. So how much it is, how many base pairs are there. Okay, before that I need to write that number, which is 2.6 times. Okay, it's 2.6 times. And which should be approximately how much? It should be 12.08 0.000 base pair. So that is the DNA there in the yeast cell. So yeast cell DNA is 2.6 times larger than the E. coli DNA. How many genes are there? So in this case you have 5. Okay, let me use another color. So it's 5860. So that's the number of genes in case of yeast cell. I hope you all know what is yeast cell. So I try to make the diagram, so you can see I can also make internal structures. So this is how you can recall yeast cells, right? Used for fermentation, production of alcohol, so many things, so many applications are there. It is also being used in genetics to study various processes. So this is the number of the base pairs in the yeast DNA. And then moving on to the next one, which is C. elegans. So this is the C. elegans. I try to make this structure, worm-shaped structure. So I'm just trying to fill in the colors. Okay, look good, right? So this is the worm, and it can have multiple different types of stages, especially when we study C. elegans. Anyways, so how many base pairs are there? So total in case of C. elegans you have 90269,800 base pair of the DNA molecule. How many genes are there? 23000, and these are the number of genes. In case of yeast, you have 5,860. In case of C. elegans, 23,000, 23,000 genes are there. Okay, moving on to the rice, which is Oryza sativa. So this is the scientific name of rice, and this is I'm trying to represent it. It's in the form of a plant, right? So how many genes, how many base pair of the DNA is there? 3 0 7 0 1 2 8 6 0 0. So direct question can come, right? Direct question can come asking you how many base pairs are there in C. elegans. Usually people don't put the questions like this. They are really memory based questions. But when you come to some of the sections in the exam, some of the section actually requires to have memory based questions. So I think if the options are very close to each other, it will be hard to find out how many base pairs are there. So you need to remember the number. Next, how many genes are there? In this case, 57,000 genes are there in case of rice or Oryza sativa. So basically what I'm doing here, as you can also see, I took the fungus and then I moved on to nematode and then I moved on to the plant. My plant is not looking good. I don't like it. So let me improve this. It's much better now. I don't know whether it looks like a rice plant, but anyways, it looks okay. And how many genes are there? So total genes, 57,000 genes. Moving on to Homo sapiens, moving on to us. It is going to be a big number, 3070128 base pair. How many genes? Genes, actually, you all have to remember. So remember, which is 29,000 genes are there approximately. You will see many of different literature where it will be mentioned 25 to 28, 26 to 29. So approximately I'm writing 29,000 genes, and this is us humans, not US, right? So I think humans. We humans have these number of genes that gives the character that right now you're seeing. So different functions, different structural components, functional components are governed by those genes. So that is the genetic information. These are the base pairs, and this is the number of genes. So in this one we have tried to cover. I think slide looks good. I really like when I put basically the illustrations, colorful illustrations. Very nice. So hopefully you will be able to remember all those things where we have quantified the number. Now let's move on to the second interesting component of this video, where we will try to understand some of the important information regarding Drosophila. What is Drosophila? It's also known as fruit fly. I'll just write in short. Fruit fly. It's a fly. So it looks like this, right? And now we'll talk about some of the numbers. Why Drosophila? Drosophila is another organism that is being studied extensively in the area of genetics. Drosophila genetics is entirely a huge area where people are working to understand different processes. Okay, how many times E. coli DNA? So what is the size of this? 35 times, very large than the E. coli DNA, right? So when we compare the E. coli DNA with the Drosophila, it will be 35 times. Next, when it comes to the human cells, and we also want to know against the E. coli DNA, so it is approximately 700 times. So these are some of the numbers that you might be interested in. So that means 700 times bigger is the human DNA. or longer, I would say, as compared to the E. coli DNA. Now, when we talk about the DNA, it's very, very important to understand, specifically when you talk about higher organisms. So in case of humans, when we talk about somatic cells, so number is diploid. So how many chromosomes are there in haploid? Haploid cells are the gametes. So probably half of the somatic cells. So how many chromosomes in case of haploid? You will have 22 pairs of non-sex chromosomes, and then you have X or Y is going to give the male and female character in this case. And then how many chromosomes, and especially in case of the diploid organisms, right? So I should write 2N here. So that's the diploid, which is somatic human cell. And when we talk about gametes, you basically have this, right? So that should be clear. So this is important because now we will quantify the entire length of the DNA molecule in our body. In our body, what is the entire length of the DNA molecule? Okay, let's move on to that particular part, which is this one. Let me adjust it a little bit because I need a little bit space down there to draw some interesting illustrations. Okay, all right. So moving on to this interesting comparison. So we'll start with the DNA that is there in one chromosome, not one chromosome, in one cell. So in one cell, if we talk about basically, if you have say haploid cells, that means you will have 22 pair non-sex chromosomes and X or Y, that is the sex chromosome. When it is, suppose you took those chromosomes and you then linearized them and made a thread from all these chromosomes. So what is chromosome? Chromosome is nothing but the compact form of the DNA like this. So what is this? Is basically a long, I'll just keep on making the structure like this. It's a DNA, right? When it is compacted, it is going to form the structure like this. Now if I linearize this DNA, so it has been found that if you linearize this DNA, the length of this will be 1 meter. 1 meter from one haploid cell. So all the chromosomes, if you take, that will be 1 meter. So if we talk about somatic cells, and those are the cells in large number in our body, 46 is basically the number. And then what will be the length is basically double than this, right? So that's N is the haploid, and then 2N is the diploid. So you'll have 2 meter total length coming from one cell. How many cells are there in human body at one particular time where you can find DNA? 10 to the power 44 cells are there in human body. So that is the number when we compare it. Now moving on to 10 to the power 44. If we compare it, so it is going to become 2 multiplied by 10 to the power 11. So this is the distance of all the chromosomes, all the DNA from all the chromosomes. When you linearize it, it will become 2 multiplied by 10 to the power 11 kilometers. So the number is basically 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, like this, right? So this is the number. This is the total kilometer distance. Can you imagine how long it will be? Okay, let me compare it with the known distance. So circumference of the earth, I don't know if you guys already remember the circumference of the earth, which is 4 multiplied by 10 to the power 4 kilometers. Compare this distance with this one. Look at the number. And then, right, so you can have like at least 2 rounds, more than that even. And in case of the distance between sun and earth, So if we take the distance between Sun and Earth, how much that distance is? 1 point, which has been already calculated, 1.5 10 to the power 8 kilometers. Now compare this number. So basically, again, the distance between Sun and the Earth, the length of the DNA is larger than that. If you just linearize that, can you imagine? And that amount of DNA is packed in our body, in single body. This is the fact. This is truth. This is not something I'm just making it up, but you can see the numbers, you can compare the number, and that is how much information is being packed inside the DNA, how much information is packed inside the chromosome, how much information is packed inside our body. So that is why basically I really like and love biochemistry, cell biology, because that complexity you will not find anywhere. You will only find that complexity in the living system, especially in higher organisms like human body. We are so complex. There is an entire mysterious world that is living in our cells, and we need to understand that, right? So with that note, I'll just conclude this video. I hope that this information was helpful for you to understand the important processes in our body. We also talk about the DNA length. We also talk about the comparison of the DNA and the known distances, right? And we also talked about some of the base pairs and the genes that are present in different organisms. All right, so I'll bring out another video where we'll continue our discussion on these important topics of biochemistry. We'll have lot of different things to cover, and I'm committed to basically make entire database of videos where all the topics, so specifically biosciences related, are being covered, where I'll take all the important topics one by one. I'll discuss those, and we'll develop an educational resource where this is going to help not only you but others, your other students that are interested in biochemistry. So all right, with that note, I'll conclude the video, and I'll meet you in my next one, where we will discuss and keep on discussing the biochemistry topics which will be important for your exams. All right, thank you very much and take care.